All right, let's talk about Hegel. Just hearing that name is enough to give most people a headache, right? And his big book, The Phenomenology of Spirit, yeah, it's known for being maybe one of the toughest reads out there. But here's the thing. What if it's not just some stuffy academic book? What if it's actually an epic adventure? I'm serious. It's the story of the human mind growing up, a huge quest to answer one simple, massive question. How do we know anything?
So, what's the core problem Hegel is tackling here? It's this ancient philosophical puzzle, basically a mental trap. Think about it like this: to know something for sure, you need some kind of standard, a measuring stick for truth. Okay, makes sense. But how do you know that measuring stick is accurate? Well, you'd need another one to check it. And to check that one, you see the problem? You get caught in this endless loop, just going around and around in circles, never actually proving anything. And this is where Hegel's answer is just so cool. He basically says, forget about finding a perfect ruler for truth before you start. Instead, he tells us it's a journey. It's a story. The phenomenology is that story. It's a biography of our main character, who we'll just call consciousness. And we get a front row seat to watch it grow up. It starts out totally clueless, makes a bunch of mistakes, learns the hard way, and eventually figures out what's what. Okay, let's dive into Hegel's epic quest. Our hero, consciousness, is on a mission. Find absolute, rock-solid certainty, the kind of knowledge you just can't argue with. And this journey, well, it's got to take us from the simplest of feelings all the way to the massive stage of human history. So, to make sense of this whole quest, we're going to use a really helpful metaphor called Hegel's ladder. Think of it as our map. We're going to follow consciousness as it climbs up these rungs. First, it looks for truth in the world out there. Then, when that doesn't work out, it's forced to look in here at itself. After that, it has this huge realization that I can't exist without a we. And finally, it gets to the very top, where it can see the whole journey for what it was. All right, first stop, the world out there. We're on the very first rung of the ladder. Our hero, consciousness, is basically a toddler at this point, super confident and thinks the most real, most certain stuff has to be what's right in front of its face. No thinking required, just pure reality. So this first attempt at knowing is called sense certainty. And honestly, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? The idea is super simple. What could possibly be more certain than what's immediately in front of me? I can just point and say this, here, now. That's it. It feels like the ultimate foundation, the most basic, direct knowledge you can get. But this is where things get really interesting. Hegel shows us how this seemingly solid idea just completely falls apart. I mean, think about it. The second you say the word now, that moment is already gone. It's in the past. And the word here, that's not a specific place. It's a general term you can use anywhere on Earth. So to even say this here now, you're already using big, universal concepts like I, this, and time. You know, the exact kind of abstract thinking sense certainty wanted to get away from. And bam, the first rung on the ladder snaps. Consciousness has to find a new strategy. Okay, so plan B is perception. Consciousness thinks, fine, forget just pointing. I'll get more specific. I'll list an object's properties. This thing is an apple, and it's red, and it's round, and it's sweet. But that leads to a whole new problem. Is the apple just a collection of those properties? Or is there some single, united thing, some appleness that has all those properties? It gets stuck in this new contradiction. And it realizes, man, this whole looking for certainty out there thing, it's just not working. And this is the big plot twist in our story, the world in here. After failing twice to find certainty in the outside world, consciousness gets totally frustrated and is forced to turn around and look inward. It has this epiphany. Maybe the problem isn't the world. Maybe I need to understand myself, the one doing the knowing. And so begins the incredible journey into self-consciousness.
And what it finds when it looks inward is, well, it's a bombshell. It discovers that the self isn't some lonely, isolated thing. In Hegel's famous words, quote, self-consciousness exists only as an I that is a we and a we that is an I. Whoa, let that sink in. Your entire sense of who you are, your I, doesn't just pop into existence on its own. It's actually created through your interactions with other people.
So, what does that actually mean? It means you have this deep, fundamental need for recognition. To be sure that you even are a self, you need another self to look at you and confirm it. Think about it. You can want an apple, you can grab it, you can eat it, but the apple can't look back at you and say, yep, you're a person. It can't recognize you. Only another conscious person can do that. So your I doesn't get built in a void. It absolutely needs a you to become a real I in the first place. This huge discovery sends consciousness flying up to the next level of the ladder. The I becomes we. Now that it knows it's fundamentally social, it has to figure out how to live in a world packed with other conscious beings. This is the world Hegel calls Spirit, or Geist in German. And just to be clear, we're not talking about ghosts here. Spirit is the whole shebang: our culture, our laws, our families, our history, our entire shared social fabric. And inside this realm of spirit, Hegel draws a really important line in the sand. On one side, you have individual reason. That's the I that thinks it can sit in a room by itself and come up with universal rules for everyone. But on the other side, you have spirit. That's the we. It's the shared cultural background, the history, the language that gives the I the tools to think in the first place. Hegel's point is a knockout punch. You can't have a solo I without the team we that made it possible. And to show how messy this shared world can be, Hegel uses the perfect example: the ancient Greek tragedy, Antigone. She's caught in an impossible situation. On one hand, she has the divine law of her family, which says she must bury her dead brother. But on the other hand, there's the human law, the king's decree, which says she absolutely can't. And the key here is that this isn't a simple good versus evil story. It's a tragic collision of right versus right. It's two different, legitimate parts of our shared spirit clashing with each other. Okay, here we are. We've made it to the very top of the ladder. This is the final act of the story, the big resolution. It's the stage Hegel calls absolute knowing. And this is the moment where consciousness finally gets the certainty it's been searching for this whole time. Now, it's super important we get this right. Absolute knowing does not mean knowing everything, like being a walking encyclopedia. It's not about omniscience. It's something way more profound. It's a kind of mature self-awareness. It's the point where consciousness can look back at its entire journey, all the failures, all the lessons, and finally understand how knowledge itself works. It sees that everything we know is the result of this long, complicated, shared historical journey of trial and error.
So let's just run back through that whole adventure real quick. Consciousness started out with sense certainty, trying to find truth just by looking. That blew up in its face. Then it tried perception, organizing things by properties. That failed too. So it was forced to look inward, and boom, it discovered it needs other people and self-consciousness. That led it into the big, messy world of spirit, our shared social life. And it's only after going through all of that that it could reach absolute knowing and see the big picture, that every single failure wasn't a dead end. It was actually a crucial step forward.
And that right there is the big payoff. The crucial point of this whole story is that we don't just find knowledge like it's a rock on the ground. Knowledge is something that's alive. It's the result of this massive historical drama we just walked through. The very fact that we can think, that we can know anything, that's a group project. It's a collective achievement that's been built on the back of every form of consciousness that came before us, that tried, that failed, and that learned.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question to chew on. If Hegel's right, if all of our knowledge, everything from our science to our ethics to how we see ourselves, is just the latest chapter in this long historical story, then what does that say about the things we are so sure about right now? Are our certainties really the end of the story? Or are we just standing on one rung of a ladder with a whole lot more climbing still to do?